Former undercover cops of Reddit. What is the craziest thing you had to do to not blow your cover? I worked as a transcriptionist for a while, and I transcribed some tape taken off of body mics of undercover officers working a very notorious domestic terrorism case. It was crazy. They would sound like an absolute backwoods hill people lunatic while talking to their marks. Then later when talking to the other police officers, would sound all business and like a very professional person. My cousin was an undercover ATF agent. Anyway, they were trying to bust some guys for illegal alcohol distribution and were building a rapport by going undercover. My cousin doesn't take his ATF badge with him when he's undercover because if anyone ever saw it, he could get shot. Anyway, some hot-headed black and white cops came over and started harassing them. My cousin couldn't blow his cover, but pretty soon the police started getting physical and they beat crap out of my cousin and the guys he is trying to get evidence from. They take them all into the police station only to find out that my cousin is ATF. My cousin was pissed because cops aren't supposed to beat people up. He is currently filing a lawsuit against that police department. My friend who was an undercover cop said that multiple times he had to let himself be arrested to not blow his cover. Like when a sting was going down or whatever, instead of being like, "Hey, I'm a cop," he would get arrested along with everyone else. My friend used to be a state trooper. She told me about how she used to have to go undercover as a hooker to try to catch Johns. She didn't do so well, though. She was far too polite, so they all knew something was up. When I first got started in forensics, it was when chat rooms and webcams were taking off. So pedophiles thought they'd be able to figure out who was who on the internet, since clearly you'll know you're webcamming with a 40-year-old dude munching on donuts instead of a 14-year-old girl. I was a naive 18-year-old woman who was just getting started in policing, doing some clerical work for my hometown police department, when I heard a couple people talking about how they were having a hard time chatting up creeps now that webcams were a thing. I told them why not just hire someone to act like an underage girl or boy and coach them on what to say and how to set up meetings to catch these assholes. Lo and behold, I volunteered myself for the job. We set up a bedroom in one of the upstairs offices, complete with a bed, a desk, and some posters from one of the officers' teenage daughters. I had to wear some of my high school sports clothes or pajamas while talking to predators via webcam. I passed notes back and forth with the team of officers and passed it off as trying to do homework while chatting. The hardest part was to still seem interested and innocent while this dude on the screen is telling me what type of horrible things he wants to do to my body, thinking I'm still a child. And #X200B. As a former correctional officer, we had a situation where a major police department planted a cop in the prison to get information on a guy they believed was orchestrating hits from inside the prison. The warden knew and I knew, by accident. But not a single other CO knew. Nor did any of the staff, including medical, and that's the way they wanted it. He went through receiving, he was categorized and placed. It was wild. He was there for a week, got the info they needed and got him out. It didn't become public knowledge that he was undercover until after I had left, and it was a long while after, as they were making a case. That was a surreal moment. My father worked for NCIS. He told me about an incident where his guys set up a sting to bust some drug suppliers who turned out to be local police setting up their own sting. They figured it out when they tried to bust each other. I know a guy who often went undercover as a junkie. He was committed. He'd stop showering for a while before a gig and piss on his tracksuit before going into work. He was so good that he managed to get the same dealer convicted twice in the space of a year, and they never suspected he was the rat. He had multiple police records under different names too. Nice try, drug lord. One time a Homeland Security officer came up to my house undercover, flashed his badge and asked if he could come in. Once he was in, he pulled out a piece of paper with my neighbor's face on it. He asked if I had seen him around lately. When I asked what he did, and let him know I haven't seen him around, he told me what he was wanted for. Rape, child abuse, drugs, the whole lot. Turns out he raped his stepdaughter, and once he found out he was wanted, he went back to El Salvador. I thought they only flashed their badges in the movies, but turns out, the shit's real. Not a former undercover cop, but I have a second-hand story about an undercover cop. So, this guy appears out of nowhere and befriends a relative of mine who was involved in illegal stuff. Dude was very friendly and just down to party. Had money. Paid for. Product. Everything. Would drop in on parties and even allegedly hooked up with hoes. Then he placed an order much larger than before. Few weeks later, relative of mine is arrested and is currently in prison. Craziest thing an undercover cop had to do to keep their cover? Buy drugs and fuck bitches. Well, since no one is saying anything, I'll just throw out a slightly on-topic conversation change. There's a show on Netflix called Deep Undercover. They are all 25 to 30-minute episodes about a real-life undercover operation. There's like 50 episodes and some of them are completely insane. I think the craziest one was about the New Orleans Police Department. I highly recommend it. Not a cop but a guy my mom dated for a long time was. Older guy, in his 70s now, he was fresh out of the academy and at the Asbury Park riots. Sad scary shit. And then was an undercover narcotics cop for 14 years during the 70s and 80s with the NJSP. He was Puerto Rican and spoke Spanish, was an ex-Marine, and became a state trooper. They utilized his ability to blend in with organized crime in the Latin community. He had to do coke in front of a bunch of dudes during a buy one night, and basically stuck his knife in and blew a mound up his nose. Then he started having a minor paranoia, panic attack that they were going to find out he was a cop, thanks to the gram of blow he just took to the dome. He was breathing heavy and went out for air. His heart was pounding out of his chest. Panicking over how to get out of it, one of the gangsters came outside to talk to him. He's ready to run or fight. Guy goes, "Man, I've never seen someone snort that much at once, man. You okay?" He sighs a huge sigh of relief, and was like, "Yeah, I never did that much. I'm having trouble breathing, haha." The guy was really nice, brings him a drink and they smoked a cig. Everyone is joking that he has the heart of a lion to take that much. He actually felt bad about locking that one guy up when it all went down. Think he said he tried to help him or get a reduced sentence or something. There are other stories. My dad did undercover for several years and talked about a meth head that he hung out with all the time and even babysat her kids when she went out to get high. This went on for several months while they were figuring out who the big dealer was and acquiring warrants. He grew a beard, had a fake id, drove an old shitty car. Eventually they got warrants to bust a bunch of people in the drug ring, and he actually was part of the SWAT team at the time and was part of the group that smashed in doors and arrested her and a bunch of others in the area. He had to wear a balaclava to protect his identity when with the SWAT team. He said it was actually really difficult because he had become an important part of those kids' lives and was kind of attached to them, and now they had no mother and had to be taken to Child Protective Services. I never got to ask him more questions about this before he passed, but I have no idea how he balanced this crazy second life and then came home and acted like a normal husband and father in our family. My cousin, who's in secret services, acted like a drug addict, homeless beggar, and semi-crazy Muslim religious salesman owning stall for surveillance purposes. Former government employees. What is the craziest classified document you've ever seen? Not very exciting, but a guy that worked with me was going to this biker bar frequently to get in with a gang, drug-related. He didn't want to get hammered and do something stupid, so he would take his beers into the bathroom with him, dump out half and fill it with water. I have gone undercover online to infiltrate child pornography rings. Nothing too intense. But I had to interact with suspects online, over phone, who were fucking sick in the head and act like it was not the most vile shit in the world. Play dead on Mount Everest. And #X200B. My codename was Green Boots. Not a cop, but fell prey to an undercover operation. I feel obligated to preface this with how amazed I am at how integrated this man was in our gang. If giving an Oscar-worthy performance is the standard, I have to say, I'm pretty fucking impressed by what you guys can do. Over the course of several months, this cop earned our trust. Hell, at one point, I would have said that I trusted that man more than my own brother, who was also in the gang. To be fair, I caught my brother stealing product from us more than once, but I trusted him to not directly destroy my livelihood. Suffice to say, this cop's acting skill was one of the #1 factors that led to us getting busted. This man, let's call him Dave, was absolutely fearless and tough as nails. One of our initiation rituals involved letting members of the group wail on you for 3 minutes, no holding back. If you were still breathing afterwards, you were in. After getting pummeled to the ground by 7 or 8 different men, Dave wasn't just alive. It was almost as if he enjoyed it. He was probably smiling because he got his foot in the door, now that I think about it. To get to the craziest thing Dave did, I need to explain how our gang functioned. We start off being refereed to as a number, both to protect identity and as a form of putting lower-ranked members in their place. Names had to be earned. We didn't exactly have a set criteria for earning a name, but members often had to bring in enough income for the gang, earn the leader's trust, and commit various violent acts for the benefit of the group before a name was even considered. All names followed the same theme: astronomy. Our leader was known as Vega. The day Dave earned his name, Vega had him as a getaway driver for a group of members. Their job was to sneak into a rival dealer's house, steal his product, and escape in Dave's car. As they were making their getaway, someone opened fire on the vehicle and Dave took a round to the forearm. Without even slowing down, he managed to get our guys back to the house using one arm to drive. After his arrival, Vega and I rushed him to the as he sat there, holding a jacket against the wound, trying to control his breaths. Within the next day, he made a full recovery. Once Dave got back, everyone showered him with gratitude and praised his badassery. Vega approached him with a name tag in his hand and pinned it to Dave's shirt, signifying that he earned his right to be known as something more than a number: Sirius. I don't hold any grudges against him for putting us behind bars. That man saved my life. Wherever you are, man, thank you. You changed who I was for the better. I will never forget the time that you earned your Sirius tag. My cousin worked undercover in the biker community. He was really into working out and bodybuilding, so he managed to convince everybody that he treated his body like a temple and didn't drink, do drugs, or eat like shit. That wasn't very far from the truth, so it wasn't hard for him to play that part. He is also a former Marine sharpshooter, so he is tough as nails and pretty heavily tattooed, so he definitely gave off a "don't fuck with me" vibe.